Hello, my name is Chad, and today we will just be discussing a couple things when it comes on to a linear regression output. There are plenty of ways of how to find out how to do this output in Excel, and I have a worksheet here that I'll be going over a couple questions and then showing you what the answers are to all 10 questions, and you can take it up on yourself to practice these problems and then check your answers towards the answers that I will provide you. So to begin, this output here that you see highlighted is the output for this information. So the very first thing you need to do and understand is what is your X value and what is your Y value. So you need to know what is your independent and your dependent variables. When you look at this, you have to realize that your hours of practice is your independent variables and your golf scores are your dependent variables. And then you go on and you answer the 10 questions. So if you want to take your time and answer the 10 questions, go ahead and pause the video. I will be explaining a couple things before I give you the answers. So the very first thing you need to do, generally they will ask, is what is the regression equation in terms of the variables of the problem? Pretty simple. They're asking, what is your linear regression equation? Where do you get those numbers? Well, generally, the linear regression equation is written as y hat. Let's enable editing. Okay. Generally, it's understood as y hat. Let's see, which one's the, okay. Y hat is equal to B0 plus B1 times X. This is your linear regression equation where y hat is your predicted value, not your actual value. So the actual values are your golf scores. Your predicted golf scores is your y hat. You go on and you need to find out, where do I find my B0 and my B1? Well, I'll color coordinate it for you. For your B0 is generally known as your intercept coefficient. And your B1 is generally known as your slope coefficient. In this case, hours of practice is the coefficient of your X. The slope is your coefficient of your X, where X is the hours practice. And then that is how you'd answer the question. So the first question would say something like y hat equals 94.63663 minus negative 2.39826 times X. That is your equation in terms of the variabilities of the problem. Not a difficult problem. Number two, what is the correlation coefficient? This is just a form of, I guess you could say, definitions and understanding what the question is saying. The definitions here is, what is your multiple R? So your multiple R is generally known as your correlation coefficient. It's just definitions. What this actually tells you, however, is it kind of tells you how steep your slope is and the direction of your linear regression line. And a follow-up question to this would say, is your multiple R positive or negative? Well, even though we see 0.842117, these numbers will never be negative. How to tell if it's positive or negative, however, is that you need to look at your slope. So in actuality, your multiple R is negative 0.842117 because your slope is negative. We will go over one more question, and then you can pause the video, try to answer the rest, because the other questions are not difficult once you get an understanding of the first three questions. So this question says, is the model significant at a 0.01 level? What you generally compare a 0.01 level to is that, is this model significant at the p-value given to you? Well, the p-value in this case is 8.2 e to the negative 5. Well, we're asking 8.2 e to the negative 5. Is it significant at that value? Well, at first glance, you'll say, oh, 8.2 is higher than 0.01. However, this e to the negative 5 actually means something. What this e to the negative 5 actually means is that it's e.2, and then you move this decimal place 5 spaces to the left. So in actuality, it is 0.000. It is 0.000082, which is a lot less than that of 0.01. So yes, it is significant at a 0.01 level. So at this time, you can go ahead and try and finish the other questions, 4 through 10, pause the video and see how you do, and then I will show you the answer key right now. So here are the answer keys. We did the linear regression equation. Correlation coefficient, as I said, was your multiple R. In this case, your multiple R is negative, but we're just showing you for purposes. So if I was to actually do the correct version, it is actually negative 0.842. But we don't do that the first time, so you can just know where to find things. And then you go on, yes, reject the null hypothesis means that if you're significant at this level, you reject the null hypothesis. Here's the observations of how you calculate it. Number 5 is just definitions. Number 6, simple calculations. Is there a positive or negative relationship? They're asking you, is your slope positive or negative? Golf score 85. In this case, your y hat is 85, not your x. You need to find your x. How does each additional hour of practice affect your golf score? They're simply asking for every x you get, as x increases by 1, what happens to your y hat? Well, your y hat decreases by negative 2.398. Determine the range of the golf score for the standard hour of practice. If the practice is 3, well, you plug x into the linear regression equation as 3, and then you add and subtract 1 standard error, and your standard error is located here. You add it so your range goes from minus 1 standard error from the y hat to plus 1 standard error of the y hat. And these are simple questions to understand a regression analysis output. Thank you.